Welcome in, everybody. This is episode 2 of the Webcam Weekly Wrap-Up. I am Christopher Setterlund, and welcome into my week that was. I'm sure many of you have stories from your life, from daily life, that are just wacky and wild and foolish. I just might be one of the only ones that actually records them in a video podcast or writes them down in my Initial Impressions 2.0 blog. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned into the first episode. I'm going to try to do these weekly, but it all comes down to schedule. And it's an ever-evolving process here. The first thing I've got to do, it has to do with timing. I'm going to try to do these weekly. Comes down to schedule. I want these to be relatively shorter. We're talking 20 minutes or less. Last week's episode was 28 minutes, I believe. So what I've come to realize is I can't fully describe the entire week in the Initial Impressions blog. It's just too much. What I'm going to do is 5 to 6 of those posts from the week that was, and the rest will have to be in the blog. It's not a teaser for you to go and read the blog, but it kind of is. Another big change is the microphone. Now, last week's episode, the sound wasn't bad, but it can always be better. So I'm using my actual podcast microphone here. I don't care. You can see it right there. Great. I'm talking into it right now. Let's get into the week that was, though. And it starts off with hair talk. I've noticed that a lot of the chain haircut places, Supercuts, Pro Cuts, Great Clip, their typical haircuts start at $20, $23, $25 for a haircut. So I had to figure this out for myself because this here, I have hair. I'm not balding. I can actually grow a full head of hair. You can see right there. I look a little bit like Gordon Ramsay. That was from like 5 years ago. Anyway, since 2010, I've been shaving my head every week because I don't like my hair. It doesn't grow straight. It doesn't grow curly. Look at this beard. You see like this insanity? That's like how my hair on my head looks. It's just like bird's nest that's now silver and dark brown. So I've been cutting my hair like that almost every week since 2010. So let's do the numbers here. In 14 years, I've bought 2 sets of clippers, actual clippers, both from Walmart. Pretty cheap, under $20. Now, if the average person gets a haircut, say every 6 to 12 weeks. So that's maybe 4 to 8 times a year at, well, I wrote down here at $23 a pop, but it could be a little more, a little less. So if you get a haircut every 12 weeks, in the last 14 years, you would have spent nearly $1,400, roughly, for haircuts. Every 6 weeks, it's closer to $2,800. Now, that's a lot of cash to save. I got my math over here because there's no way I'd know that offhand. But think about that. If you got a haircut every 6 weeks for 14 years, it's $2,800 in haircuts. Whereas, me, I spent 40 something dollars maybe on the shears. So that's about it. I'm not saying everyone should buzz their hair like me, but hey, at least my odds of screwing it up are small. What can I do to not do this right? Accidentally leave a patch so I look like the Legion of Doom wrestlers, Hawk and Animal, with like parts of hair left. So boy, summer got out of here really fast this year, didn't it? On Cape Cod in the Northeast, we went from days and weeks of perfect weather, 75 and sunny and the humidity down, to the last 3 days of summer being filled with rain. In Yarmouth, where I'm at, we got a little over 6 inches of rain. A little further east in Chatham, they got over 9 inches of rain. Now, of course, it's fall now, but you know that there's going to come that time of year where it's like a horror movie. You think summer is dead, but then it's like Michael Myers. Suddenly it sits up and rises again and strangles you with warmth or stabs you with sunshine or, I don't know, horror movie icons, villains, and weather. They don't match very well. So here's one that it's one of those where some of the things I put in the blog, I honestly stop and think, boy, what are people going to think when I share this? But the funniness and randomness, I don't want it to be just me seeing other people and being like, ooh, there was this story about that person I saw or this experience. So this, we'll just do. I'm blessed in my mid to late 40s that my eyesight is still really good. Both my parents have had glasses forever. I'm sure at some point that'll come. I mean, having this ring light shining in my eyes is going to be good because the webcam is here. The light's there to make it look good. So I'm sure that's not great for my eyes. But that being said about my eyesight, I do have a tendency to sometimes scan words quick and kind of misread things. The latest example of this was at the grocery store. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the energy drink Celsius. Funny little side note, boy, this will keep the time going with this. I can't just stay on topic. Funny little side note. Celsius, for those of you that do know it, it originated in Delray Beach, Florida in 2005. You know who was living in Delray Beach in 2005? This guy here. I was in like the original group of people that first tried Celsius when it was in these little stores along the beach in Delray, and they were in glass bottles. So there. So Celsius, every time I see it, I'm like, oh, I was there at the beginning with you. Anyway, they have a new flavor of Celsius. It's called Astro Vibe. I think it's raspberry. I haven't tried it yet. Maybe I'm too embarrassed because of this. The first time I saw Astro Vibe, I read it real quick, and the first thing that popped in my head was Astroglide. Now, Astroglide is definitely not an energy drink. It is definitely not a product that you would want to drink. Although, I'm not even going to get into that. Enough said about that. It's definitely a different product. But the first thing I thought when I saw Celsius Astro Vibe was a sexual enhancement product, which is what Astroglide is. This is the thing where I want to put photos and videos all up on the podcast here so you can see what I'm talking about. And this one, I can't put that up. I'll end up getting some kind of strike on YouTube. So I'm kind of leaving it at that. You ever think you have found all of the dryer sheets in your laundry? So I get done with my laundry. I try to fish them out before I put all the clothes in the basket. Either way, if not, take them and throw them all away. I try to remember how many I threw in the laundry so that when I'm fishing them out of the clothes, I know that they're all good. You ever thought you had all the dryer sheets, but then you are out at a store or something and you feel something in your pant leg? This foolish occurrence happens to me every so often. It's either a long sleeve or pant legs, and suddenly I'm fishing a dryer sheet out of my pants. It was one time I actually had this happen in a store. I was in line, and I said, why is my arm itchy? And I just whip out a dryer sheet. Oh my God. It's one of those things that luckily nobody saw in the supermarket. But if that had happened to me in school, it would be like the end of me. I'd always be known as dryer sheet boy. It's like, that's not what I want in my yearbook. People's quotes. They'd be talking about, oh yeah, it was a great year. Dryer sheet boy did great on his math test or whatever the hell. I like to go to the beach before I go to work. Beaches in Brewster on the bay side on Cape Cod. For those of you that know Cape Cod, if not, if I can't help you with that. I'm trying to keep these on time this week as far as how long I make them. I saw a woman walking two dogs. One of them was on like two leashes, so it was far enough away. It was a smaller one of those yip yip dogs. I think I mentioned one last week on the show. The other dog was an older yellow lab. She had a whitish face. She reminded me so much of my dog my family had when I was growing up. Her name was Patty. She was a yellow lab, and she was one of those dogs that you could walk her unleashed. I mean, it's not safe or smart to do, but you could walk this dog unleashed. You'd know she wouldn't run away. You'd know she wouldn't attack people. She would lick people. She was the friendliest dog. And so seeing this woman's dog, whose name was ironically Chelsea, my Aunt Kelly has a dog or had a dog with the same name. So it was kind of interesting. But it made me think of Patty in her later years. She only lived to be 9. She had a few litters of puppies. She got sick with cancer. She also had a stroke. And when she was near the end, she had packed on a lot of weight. She basically looked like a Twinkie with a head. I kid you not. It's every time I can close my eyes and picture her now. That Patty looked like a Twinkie with a head. So seeing this dog at the beach, it gave me good memories. And it was really cute. She was so sweet. The woman was saying, Chelsea, come on. And the dog was sniffing the seaweed and such. But she finally went back up with her owner, and she had a step stool to help her get into the back seat of the SUV. It was just really cute and one of those things that gave me good feelings, and it gave me an excuse to share pictures of Patty and memories of her here. But then we get into, I'm sure all of you see weird things, weird people in your week. Like I said at the beginning of this show, you see it. Most of you probably have other things to do, so it just goes out of your head. Me, I make notes of it. I literally make notes in my phone. If I see something, I'll do the talk to text and say it. It helps me remember because some of the details I wouldn't remember, like this one. It was in a grocery store, and I saw two guys. One was normal, I guess you would say. The other one, he was taller, probably 5'10", 5'11", very skinny, wearing shorts and flip-flops. But then the other thing he was wearing was this giant, oversized blue trench coat with big gold buttons. He was a medium or large at best. And this was like double XL, wide shoulder pads. It looked like a kid wearing daddy's clothes. But all I could think of was he looked like something that a Disney character would have worn in like a 1950s animated film, like Scrooge McDuck. I literally did one of the double takes that you would see in a TV show. I saw him and what? I had to walk away to laugh because it was just like he must have been looking to get attention. It looked so foolish. Bits. I usually have 10 to 11 segments of the Initial Impressions 2.0 blog, and I can't do all of them. This podcast, it's a big size. The one last week that I did, it was like 3.5 gigs of space on my computer. And those add up quickly. My audio podcasts, they're typically each week they're like a gig and a half of data. So my computer's got a lot of room on it here, but it's going to fill up quick. So I have to keep these on point. So for the rest of my week that was, go and read the blog. I will link to it in the description of the video on YouTube, but we'll finish it off with this one that's a bit funny. At least I think so. So today, as I'm recording this, I just recorded a podcast episode audio. Earlier in the morning, I had a raging migraine headache. I get those not as often as I used to, but I was diagnosed when I was 2 years old with migraines, which they weren't pleasant. This light, like I said, in my eyes, I'm sure that's not great for my headache, but I had enough caffeine, ibuprofen, maybe a little bit of THC microdose to clear my head up. And I did. At that point, early in the morning, I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to go for a walk or a run because I wanted to do something like that before I record content. Because if I wait until after, I won't want to do it. Eventually, I got mad at myself. I had my caffeine, ibuprofen. I forced myself into my workout gear and I went for a walk. I have been listening to the audiobook version of David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. If you don't know who he is or the book, it's so inspirational, his story. He's considered the toughest man alive, what he's gone through. I am at the point in the book where he literally lost just over 100 pounds in 3 months. For real. And I was listening to this as I'm out on my walk saying, my head hurts. I don't want to do 4 miles of walking. So it was kind of like, ugh, you gotta suck it up. Willed myself through it by saying, if Goggins could lose 100 pounds in 3 months, surely I could do 4 miles. Surely I could do 4 miles of a leisurely walk on a bike trail. It's just as tough walking 4 miles as losing 100 pounds or passing Hell Week in Navy SEAL training. That's all the same. But yeah, that's the majority of the week that was the second episode. I'm hoping that you enjoy these. This one, I'm trying to keep it shorter. I want it to be 20 minutes or less. Leave some stuff for the blog so that you can go and eat that. There is more. I have stuff about Tupperware going under, obnoxious Staples salespeople. I have stuff about Market Basket and having every employee that works there in the building at the same time. It's random, a lot of foolish, sometimes poignant, but it's all reality from my life. And I think all of us have experiences like that. Yours are definitely different than mine. I live on Cape Cod. So if you live in New York or you live in the Midwest or Southern California or you live in Europe, your daily foolishness and daily randomness will be different from mine. But we all have that same sort of thing. It makes life interesting, it makes life fun. And I like sharing it because we can all have a good laugh. You can see pictures, videos. Here, before I go, I'll put up my favorite picture of the week. I'm recording this now, so I don't know what it is. I'll just say, wow, isn't that a great picture? Yeah, I was lucky to get that picture. And then we'll just fade out. I don't know what it's going to be. I'll do it in post production, whatever the picture was. I'm sure it was great. So thank you for tuning in. Check out the main podcast, the In My Footsteps podcast. It's on YouTube. It gets posted every Wednesday. That took the place of Google Podcasts, but you can get it wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Pandora. There's also my homepage, ChristopherSetterlund.com. That's where we've got links to all of my 9 books. You can go to, like I said, the Initial Impressions 2.0 blog. I do those weekly. I resurrected it in February. If you want to support me, support my work, you can go to patreon.com/ In My Footsteps podcast. I think I linked to that in the description of the video. If not, I'll take care of that. But it gets you access to bonus podcast episodes, early access to the main podcast, YouTube videos. And like I said, I'll do my best to do these weekly because the more content you have, the more chance you have that someone's going to stumble upon you. And it's like layers of an onion. If you're watching this and you don't know about any of my other work, articles, blogs, books, podcasts. Maybe you'll find them. This has been what I've wanted to do since I was 8 years old. Creative content, I guess, whether it's books or podcasts or blogs or whatever, using my brain to try to make a living. And that's what I've been trying to do. So that ends the Webcam Weekly Wrap Up number 2. Thank you for tuning in. And that's going to do it. I am Christopher Setterlund, and I'll see you next week.